So we're going to be getting into the nitty gritty of it, some behind the scenes stuff. Last month in April, we talked about the price history of Transformers, the standardization of price points that were put into effect in late 1995 and how those prices changed throughout the years. The segment ended with us talking about the future with the coming tariffs and everything and how it might affect our hobby and some suggested prices that we might be getting if that did happen. The tariffs in Vietnam were going to be reduced, but now it seems that those reductions might be hitting instead an all-time high, and the last 3 days have really made a lot of different toy companies kind of go, ooh, what's going on here? What is going to be the game plan for the future, including Vietnam, including China, and of course, including Hasbro. Mattel recently started talking about things. Now, Mattel, of course, has a partnership with Hasbro with the Transformers brand, and Mattel just announced that they will be increasing prices. Mattel has 40% of their items done in China, but 5% of those items are done in Vietnam, specifically their Cars brand, and it continues to be a minor success for them even in the modern 2025 era, and they're going to have to increase prices. These, tariffs are going to be a thing, and Mattel has openly said that they're going to have to do it. Now, Hasbro, 99% of their products are made in Vietnam, specifically the Vietnamese factory of GFT Group. They are the main factory that Hasbro works with. Hasbro for years in China worked with Jetta Plastics, and then when they moved everything to Vietnam, GFT Group was their go-to for manufacturing their products. Hasbro has had a strong relationship with this factory since 2016, and while there was early growing pains and hiccups and stuff like that, mostly the stickering issues and stuff like that when we saw with the Power of the Primes line and certain paint decos, by 2022 and Earthrise, things have started to get more consistent and quality started to get better. And again, the factory workers started to get better familiar with toy assembly and were better trained for it, something I'll get back into later on. Sadly, this whole operation being in Vietnam with GFT Group, we're going to be seeing price increases. And just yesterday was May the 4th, and Hasbro had their big Star Wars pre-order day. And the Star Wars community noticed with those pre-orders that Hasbro mentioned to lock in your pre-order prices today before May 9th, as if price increases were something that would be coming in the future, and if you pre-order now, you could lock in those prices. So there's a strong suggestion that those suggested prices we talked about last month with NecoBot 77's estimations, that might not be exact numbers, but we'll give a ballpark figure, but there's a strong possibility that this might be a reflection of what we might see in the future if it's something that might happen. Now, one could say, other companies are moving their operations to tariff-free zones and doing their business there, much like, let's say, iPhone is moving everything now to India to avoid the tariffs and stuff like that. Now, if only it was that easy, in all honesty. Plastic injection by machines, that's not a problem. Any machine could do that, much like how Lego is able to keep their business in Denmark. It's skilled trained workers on assembly lines that are the much needed thing when it comes to the Transformer brand. Something that was great and affordable at the time in Japan during the 70s and 80s with Generation 1. Something that was affordable and great at the time and high quality with China and Hong Kong in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And now everything's in Vietnam as of 2014, 2015. And then when that big shift happened, most of Transformer production went over there. It took, Vietnam about a good 5 years to, figure it up and get up to snuff with assembly and how complex Transformer toys are, instead of just straight injection molding like Lego, and the customer is the one that actually does the assembly with Lego. Simple assembly of action figures, and of course the much more complex assembly and the multiple parts and everything like you see with a Transformer toy. So the move to India right now, while it might sound like a great idea, would be way too risky for something like Transformers, because Who knows if those workers even have the skills to handle something like that, let alone to do it also suddenly now with all the drama that's going on. The last thing that we need in our Transformer brand is more assembly line problems, QC issues, and a shaky start, much like Vietnam had in 2015. So definitely not. But my biggest fear of everything, in all honesty, and I always look in the long run of all this, I always try to look at the long game. My biggest fear is if these tariffs do happen and we do have price increases, if and when those tariffs go away, and they will, whether it be in the current U.S. administration or the next one that'll come, will Hasbro reduce those prices back down? Or, this is what I fear, it'll just become normalized and this will be the new price point that customers will just get used to because customers, according to big corporations, have short-term price memory. Look what happened with inflation in 2020. We had a new price increase in 2020 with inflation, and that became standardized. And we never looked back. And now this is happening. So it starts a deeper conversation of we're going to have to figure out where we're going to prioritize our budget within our lives and our hobby. We love Transformers, but we don't want to go broke over Transformers. So it's something where one has to truly figure out what are we going to do next with this. So it's quite wild. I hope you enjoyed some of the footage I put on the screen of all the different factories throughout the years. But let me know what you think about all of this. And again, there's price increases coming. It's pretty much a given. It's just a matter of how are we going to deal with this? What are those prices going to be? And how we're going to make our decisions on how we're going to handle our hobby in the future. Thanks again for listening to the Transformer Slag podcast and keeping you educated, entertained, and informed on our beautiful robot hobby. And I'll talk to you in the near future.